afternoon. I'm Victoria Meinig. I am the CEO of the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce, and I want to thank everyone for taking time to join us today. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the elected officials in the room. We have County Commissioner Martha Schrader, City Commissioners Denise McGriff, Rocky Smith, Frank O'Donnell, and Adam Marl. Thank you for coming. I would also like to recognize our sponsors and support team who made this possible. To our sponsor, Clackamas Water Environment Services, Greg Geis, Shelley Perini, and a special thank you to Ed Nato. Portland General Electric, Julie Hernandez, Melody Ashford and the crew from the Willamette Falls Media Center, Kristen Brown, Lisa Oriskovich, and Jacob Wiley. Thank you all so much. I also want to give a special thanks to our Chair Circle members, Citizens Bank, Clackamas Water Environment Services, Hilltop Mall, Lewis and Clark Bank, Morrissey Financial, Oregon City Garbage, Parkin Electric, Providence Willamette Medical Center, to our supporter level, Iron Glove Studio, Pacific Office Automation, PGE, and then Double J Construction, and Oregon City Geeks and Games. We hope this presentation leaves you more informed about our great city and its vision going forward. I would like to now introduce you to the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce Vice Chair, Dan Mills, owner and operator of Grocery Outlet.
Thank you, Victoria. Welcome, Oregon City community. As Victoria said, my name is Dan Mills. I'm the Vice Chair of the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce and also your independent owner-operator of your Oregon City Grocery Outlet. The Chambers had the unique opportunity this past year to observe and contribute to our city's continued perseverance and ultimate success in such trying times. 2021 flew by in a whirlwind of grants, funding, innovative programs, and community support to stabilize Oregon City's businesses. We are proud to report that it appears we are on more stable ground with more funding on the horizon for this coming year. We are deeply grateful for the state and federal programs that have helped our economy over the past couple of years. We believe the people and local businesses of our own Oregon City community are the true heroes. We have seen firsthand businesses helping businesses survive and carry on. Innovation, creativity, and reimagination have transformed businesses into vibrant organizations. Although someday we may approach a semblance of what we once were, these strides in improving the way we do business will continue. Shop local whenever possible. We are truly in this together, and together we will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And now we welcome our honored guest, Mayor Rachel Lyles-Smith.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. I would like to thank the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce for the invitation to present today, and to each of you for taking the time to attend. It is an honor and a privilege to stand before you today and share the remarkable feats of accomplishments of the city of Oregon City that we have undertaken to keep our community vibrant, active, engaged, capitalizing on our opportunities while working through multiple challenges. I'll also share with you ways the City Commissioning is planning to make a brighter Oregon City in the future by modeling equity and inclusion, making investments to support sustainable infrastructure, and protecting and preserving environmental health. 2021 taught us all that we are resilient. We're turning the challenges of the past year into opportunities. It feels like 2 years. It's really been 2 years of this, right? But opportunities to transform our city and address the needs of today and for years to come. I would like to take a moment to recognize and thank my fellow commissioners, Denise McGriff, Rocky Smith, Frank O'Donnell, and Adam Marl. This group of talented and passionate individuals spend countless hours volunteering their time to make Oregon City a safe home, a unique destination, and a thriving hub for local businesses. I would like to thank the city staff for their professionalism and dedication to the organization and the community as they deliver projects and programs and implement the policies of the City Commission. Without question, the past 22 months have been challenging. A time of loss, hardship, and change. The stress of community members losing their jobs, of losing loved ones and friends, of losing a sense of belonging and connectedness. After months and months of staying at home, all of this has it's really just taxed all of us. Fortunately, city staff continued to offer in-person and virtual services to our community. This has increased access and is a technology change that is now part of daily operations. Early in 2021, the City Commission took on the biannual task of setting goals and priorities for the next 2 years. Through many hours and multiple days, these goals and priorities were discussed and shaped into the following 8 goals. Goal 1 is to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion for a safe, inclusive community and organization. Goal 2 is to invest in current and future capital needs for safe, sustainable infrastructure and city services. Goal 3 is to improve the city's engagement efforts to reach the broader Oregon City community and inform the policy process. Goal 4 is to adopt and implement a homelessness strategy for Oregon City. Goal 5 is to promote tourism and support economic development to foster community sustainability. Goal 6 is to support diverse housing options in Oregon City. Goal 7 is to support improvements and partnerships that contribute to our hometown feel and showcase Oregon City's unique community identity. And 8 is to protect and preserve our environmental health and natural resources. I'll share with you ways that we've worked to achieve these worthy goals and future programs, projects, and operations that will continue to affect change and accomplish the needs of our community. I could talk for hours about each one of these, but I chose just a few to share with you today. So the first one is homelessness. Through our homeless liaison officer and behavioral health specialist, we have helped transition people out of homelessness and into housing. But clearly and without question, there is much more work to do. We are going to continue to work with the tools that we have and create new partnerships with the goal of lifting people out of homelessness over the next 2 years, including those who are living on our streets in unsafe and unhealthy conditions. Chief Band and I have written a homeless strategy for Oregon City that will focus our efforts on a set of strategies that we feel are reasonable given the complexity and the extent of this problem. In partnership with Clackamas County and the surrounding cities, we are working on a course of action that includes housing vouchers, wraparound services, and programs that can help keep people from falling into homelessness. We cannot solve the homelessness issue by ourselves, but we do recognize that this is one of the top concerns of our residents and businesses, and we are working hard to do our part. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is one of the Commission's goals to create opportunities for a more equitable tomorrow. We've been able to stream meetings and allow for digital participation in our committees and commission meetings, and this is a practice that we will continue to provide. Offering a hybrid style of participation allows the busy parent with no after 5 p.m. childcare the opportunity to provide public comment, or the student who's finishing their day of school the chance to listen and participate as they transition to their evening job. Using technology, we can reach more people and provide more opportunity for persons of all ages and situations to be engaged in city activities. We are looking for ways to continue our equity approach, and in 2022, you'll notice a change in our Parks and Recreation fee structure. After public engagement and a lot of heavy analysis, we've adopted a policy that helps subsidize programs and amenities that have the greatest community benefit, while charging a fair price for programs and classes that are more individualized. City staff is building a diversity, equity, and inclusion group that will help take feedback from community members on ways the city can lead with an equity-first approach. We look forward to you as people invested in Oregon City to help lend your voice and make space for opportunities and improvements. Our library has launched the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, which will help give parents, caregivers, and kids the tools and support they need to create young readers. This program is geared to help young children develop critical, early literacy skills and become lifelong readers. The 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program is made possible by the generous support of the Oregon City Library Foundation and the Friends of the Oregon City Library. We are grateful for their continued support as we work to create young readers throughout our community. Through the OC24 Comprehensive Plan Update Project, we've heard loud and clear that citizens of Oregon City value the place that they call home. This project has brought many new voices to the table, which allows us to ensure that the future of Oregon City is representative of all who live here. We've focused on 4 core values to help guide the future of Oregon City. These are healthy and welcoming communities, diverse economy, connected infrastructure, and protected environment. Each of these values represents a chapter in the new OC 2040 plan, which will streamline the comprehensive plan and make it more intuitive and user-friendly document. Comprehensive plans are intended to be a high-level policy document that creates the city's 20-year vision and guides city decisions and work plans. Part of the city staff's approach for this update is to reduce the overall bulk of the document by keeping goals and policies at a higher level and removing short-term implementation measures that are not conducive to a 20-year planning horizon. This ensures that the comprehensive plan can be implemented through development of more specific and targeted action plans, projects, and programs directed by the City Commission. This work is still being done, and we appreciate your efforts and participation to make this plan a usable document for the next 20 years. Next, I'll talk about affordable housing. Affordable housing is an area of local, regional, state, and national importance, and Oregon City is working to implement statewide affordable housing regulations consistent with the needs of our community. That's why one of the City Commission's goals of supporting diverse housing options in Oregon City is so important. In 2019, we did an excellent job and were leaders in our region to increase the options for middle housing in some residential zones. For instance, triplexes, fourplexes, and townhomes are now allowed in the smaller residential zoning districts. House Bill 2001 was passed in 2019 by the Oregon legislature and continues to be immensely impactful as it expands a whole slate of middle housing to all residential zones. The city does have slight flexibility in some of these code changes, such as geologic hazards, lot sizes, setbacks, parking, and lot coverage, but additional housing options are on the way. Public hearings are scheduled for March through May of this year to meet the summer deadline for code adoption. Although this is a great step in the right direction, we are aware that the lack of housing supply and rising housing costs will require more work and effort at the local, state, and national level. One project that we've targeted for the city is the creation of a quiet zone in our downtown area. You may be wondering how this ties to affordable housing, but we're hoping that this project will spur housing developments in downtown, which will help bolster and support existing businesses and allow employees to live where they work. The Oregon City Quiet Zone was selected to be included in the 2022 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Funding Package at the federal government. This was one of only 3 projects in Oregon to make the list. Unfortunately, this project has been pulled along with some other earmarked projects, but we hope to work with Congressman Schrader to help move this important project forward in the future. Downtown Oregon City will be a lot quieter, and crossing the tracks will be safer for walkers and drivers once this project is implemented. Investing in capital needs for safe, sustainable infrastructure. Infrastructure is multi-generational. It creates the structures and facilities that in turn create safe multimodal travel and enable prosperity. The Malala Avenue Streetscape project wrapped up this winter, and we thank you for your patience as we know how impactful the detours and closures were to the community and business owners. Our water infrastructure was upgraded as part of this project, and a new 18-inch water line, which spans the entire corridor, has replaced aging distribution lines. The Streetscape project provides over 4,000 feet of new sidewalk, providing safe walkways for those in wheelchairs, strollers, and those traveling on foot. Over 2 miles of new buffered bike lanes were added to allow a safe space for bikers in our city. Upgraded bus shelters, new street lamps, benches, and 47 new ADA-compliant curb ramps now can be enjoyed by our entire community. We've gotten the most positive feedback about the mid-block pedestrian-activated crossings, as getting from one side of Malala Avenue to the other has been difficult for those living in and around the area. Residents now have a safer way to access services, jobs, and restaurants in this heavily utilized corridor. We want to thank Metro for the grant funding to help pay for portions of this project. Earlier this year, some of you may have joined me in opening the Oregon City Engineering and Operations Complex, which was open to the public. It has been a long time coming. But this facility houses all of the public works divisions under one roof. And because of the size and layout of the property, we were also able to include the Parks and Recreation Maintenance Division. This $12.8 million construction project redeveloped a 4.7-acre property with 53,000 square foot warehouse and 26,000 square foot of office space. I am very proud that we've made this investment without going to the public for a bond or taking on debt. The investment is from utility and parks funding saved for many years through the fiscal management of city staff. Our park infrastructure was expanded last year by the addition of the Tyrone S. Woods Memorial Park. The 9-acre park was envisioned by the Oregon City community to be accessible to all ages and abilities. The park includes site amenities, including winding looped pathways, open lawn areas, a picnic shelter, benches, a nature playground, and a fenced off-leash dog park. Took a while to get that one, but we got it. Subsequent phases are planned to include pickleball courts and skate amenities. The Oregon City VFW Post 1324 helped make the grand opening event an honorable and a memorable and patriotic event. Thanks to their generous donation, you can read about Tyrone's legacy at the park. I hope you've been able to enjoy this gem of a park in our city and reflect on the privileges that we have because of those that serve in our armed forces. We also reopened the revitalized DC Lotterette Park last summer, which is now home to a new nature play area with play structures, upgraded walking path, refurbished basketball court, entryway, and additional seating. These upgrades and additions help realize the dreams of Oregon City Girl Scout Troop 45064. Their goal and dream was to make the park accessible for children and adults at all ability levels. So thanks to the Lotterette core team, which was a mix of neighborhood members and park enthusiasts, we helped bring that park back to life. Also, last summer, we broke ground on the Hazel Grove Park in the Hazel Grove Westling Farm neighborhood. Staff heard early on that it was important to the neighbors to keep the most active areas of the future park centrally located, such as the shelter and the children's nature play area, and to cause minimal impact to the existing mature tree canopy. So we will able to maximize the available open lawn area for active recreation opportunities, with upgraded drainage facilities to increase water quality and improved access to the park. The Hazel Grove Park is slated to open in the next few months. Natural resources and climate action. Last summer, in partnership with Clackamas County, we launched the Clackco Connects shuttle service that provides vital connection to our rural communities and areas that are hard to get to by transit. This service provides a critical last-mile connection between service provided by TriMet and our community. City staff is continuing to refine the route around Oregon City to meet the needs of transit riders. Our goal is to help people get to work, school, and home through a seamless system of transportation options. I imagine you've heard a lot about the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA for short. ARPA provided roughly $350 billion to states, tribes, territories, counties, and cities. Of that $350 billion, $65 billion was allocated to local governments and municipalities. Oregon City will receive $8.29 million to help recover from the impacts of COVID-19. We are working through these allocations of funds to help city services bounce back and to provide for a more resilient future. Even through the hardest times, Oregon City still pulls together and looks out for one another. We've been humbled by the generous donations from the VFW, the Oregon City's women's group, to help fund the Veterans Memorial Plaza at the Mountain View Cemetery. The Memorial Plaza will be repaired from years of damage from the elements, and the site will be ADA compliant and recognize all branches of the armed forces. You can join us for the annual Memorial Day celebration in May to see the great work done at the Mountain View Cemetery. The Oregon City Optimist Club gathered their members and volunteers to help clean up debris from those that were physically unable or lacked resources to remove limbs and trees after the 2021 ice storm. We heard from many residents that the limb and tree drop site, spun up by our city staff, was a saving grace when faced with piles of fallen limbs and trees in their yards. An incredible 43,000 cubic yards of woody debris was collected, processed, and removed at this site. There were many stories shared of neighbors helping neighbors clean up, check in, and care for those who were without power or resources through cold and icy days. The immediate challenges of the moment will try to force us to keep our heads down. But with vision and great leadership, we lift our heads and see a better tomorrow, to build a better tomorrow. And we're ready. The resiliency that defines us, the Oregon City spirit that welcomes, challenges, and creates opportunities, is back and is stronger than ever. That is our path forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We are now going to take a brief pause to set up for our community roundtable. We'd like to welcome Dr. Tim Cook, President of Clackamas Community College, Kyle Lair, Interim Superintendent of the Oregon City School District, along with our Mayor, Rachel Lyles-Smith. So we're going to ask 5 questions and just go down the line so that we can hear an update about our community. So, Dr. Cook, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
What are the 3 most significant accomplishments of 2021?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us and having the college be part of this. It's I really appreciate that from the chamber. There's a lot actually to be proud of from the college in 2021. So I tried to pick a few highlights, and I think one of the things we're most excited about, if you haven't seen it yet, is the opening of our Wachino Welcome Center. And that is the front door of our college. And it's named after Chief Wachino of the Clackamas people that signed the treaty that moved the Clackamas people down to the Grand Ronde tribe. And we did a lot of work with the Grand Ronde tribe to come up with a name that was respectful and representative of what they wanted. We're really proud of that. But also the Wachino Center, the Welcome Center, is really wonderful for students. Prior to this building being open, we found that students were sometimes sent around to 5 different buildings to kind of get started and get going. And we know that they tend to leave when they haven't gotten that help. So now they can get everything they need in that one building. So that's, and I'd love to show it to any of you whenever you want to come. I'm very proud of that building. We also hired our first diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, and are starting our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Center this past year. So that had been a long time coming as well at the college. A number of our diverse students, our BIPOC students, is over 20% now. And we look at the school districts, we know that that's increasing in the community. And so we really needed some support, staff support, and space to really do what we can to increase the numbers of diverse employees at the college, but also to retain and attract diverse students at the college as well. So that's been a real pride for us this past year. And then we, from a financial perspective, we received the largest donation in our history. We got a $5 million gift from Terry and Cheryl Holden, who are longtime community members in Clackamas County, for our work around in our Industrial Technology Center. So we named that the Holden Center. And what's exciting about that is much of that money goes for scholarships to support students that are going into the trades and working through that. But they also recognize the need to make sure that all of our equipment and our programs are state of the art. So we have now an endowment that we can buy new equipment, and we can make sure that we're not that we're always training and we're always making sure that we have what we need for the community, and particularly in this area for manufacturing, to make sure that we're on par there. So I think those are the three I came with. If you asked me like in 5 minutes, I'd probably have 3 different ones. So I did the best I could there, Victoria.
Thank you. Kyle?
Yeah, first of all, thank you again for the invite. We do appreciate being able to come and speak about the school district today to the chamber and community. And we think about things that we're proud of. I love being asked that question, because we're not being asked that a lot recently about what's gone well in this last couple of years. But we think back through 2021, obviously the biggest thing for us is having kids back in school. I mean, I think that if we think about the impact that educators, and when I say educators, I'm talking about our teachers, our bus drivers, our nutrition service, everybody that supports a kid throughout the day, they play such an impact and a role in the development of those students into becoming adults. And a year away from school, or almost a full year away from school, and that contact with the adults, that was challenging for a lot of our kids, and obviously for a lot of our educators as well too. And so overall, if there was anything that is the greatest thing that we're excited about this year, it's that our kids have been back, and that we've been able to rebuild those relationships and continue to work with kids in a manner that we know is impactful for them and impactful for this community. The other piece of this, which was a great thing that happened here, and we want to thank the voters of Oregon City for supporting the 2018 bond. That is going to have a historic impact on this school district. As many of you are aware, with the bond and with some other grants, we had over $190 million of projects going on in this community over the last couple of years that have given us the great brand new Gardner Middle School that's just down the street from here, the amazing renovation at Tamata Middle School as well too, and then almost every single one of our buildings was impacted by some level of construction, most of it around security and safety, things that we desperately needed throughout the district. And so that's been exciting to see happen, and just an amazing effort by our bond team, our maintenance and facilities, all of our educators that were part of that bond project, the construction companies that worked with us, and our project managers as well too, is they went through that $190 million worth of projects during a pandemic. We made it through. We opened on time, even with supply chain challenges, and the fear that at any point in time a construction site could get shut down due to illness. We made it through, and these projects are amazing, and we really do look forward to welcoming people. I know I get asked, when are the openings? Well, we've scheduled them a couple of times, and each time a variant kind of seems to show up. So hopefully at some point we'll open those doors wide open and let people see the great work and the great investment that this community made for its students this past year. And then additionally, I'm really proud of our school district over the last year, that one of the things that we did that was not true of every single school district within the state is we knew that not every kid was going to return to the Oregon City School District. We had a lot of kids. This state has experienced over 30,000 student decline in the overall state enrollment over the past 2 years. Oregon City was not immune to that. We also lost about 800 students during that period of time too as well. But we made the decision, not knowing what was going to happen over this year, to ensure that all of the services that were there before and the additional services that were going to be there from the student investment account were there for students when they returned, so that if all of them did return, we were there to support them. And I think experiencing the challenges that our kids had when they were away from school and coming back, having all of those services into place and ensuring that we did have more than enough staffing for those kids, it is something that was a good decision for our students. to make sure that we could support them as best as we could, because as I think we all know, everybody's experienced a lot of challenge over the last couple of years, and so having those additional supports in place for our kids has been really impactful for them, and I'm glad we made that investment.
Thank you, Victoria. So you guys have already heard a lot from me, so I'll maybe try to be a little bit briefer and give you all some more time to talk. So the 3 accomplishments that it's easy for me to think of. We have many, but I think of our infrastructure projects, a couple that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Opening the First Street Public Works Operations Center without taking on debt by prudent fiscal work by the city staff. That's almost unheard of. It was a huge project, a lot of years in the making, and that infrastructure project, it's one of those things that I think most people going about their daily lives, they don't think anything about, right? Where, but you'll notice it where they're not potholes are filled, where they're not de-icing is down on roads when it freezes over. That's our public works. How you visit the parks and whether or not they're maintained and up to date. Our parks is in that building as well. So, that was a really big project, and we're really proud to open it. And the Malala Avenue Streetscape project, you probably all experienced the same as I did. The detours and the lane changes all the time, and I heard a lot of people grumbling about that, and everybody's like, it's taken so much longer. No, it was actually how long we planned on it being. And I guess the point is as you mentioned, we completed those through supply chain issues, COVID issues where we were losing workers. We finished monumental projects in the city, and for them to be infrastructure projects is also a really big accomplishment. Another one I'll mention is parks. How many communities and cities do you know are opening new parks? We established 2 new parks last year for our neighbors and our kids to go and play, and people of all ages and abilities to experience our parks and enjoy nature. In a time when we were locked in our houses and everybody was wearing masks, I think everybody really had a greater understanding and appreciation of our park spaces. And to open new ones, and I'll tell you, the Tyrone Woods opening will probably go down as one of the most memorable events for me, being mayor of the city. If you had a chance to visit or be a part of that opening, you'll know, it was just amazing to honor the life of an Oregon City resident, Tyrone Woods. We have a wonderful park, and opening that park named after him is just, it's so heartwarming. And if you haven't been there, I really hope that you go by there and read about this Oregon City legend, who gave his all for our country. And so, yeah, it will go down in history for me as my time here in Oregon City is one of the best things that I've ever attended and was part of. And then last but not least, on the more negative side, the ice storm. If you lived in Oregon City, you experienced the ice storm. I don't know anybody who didn't experience that. I have pictures of me cooking on a camp stove in my garage for Valentine's Day. If you'll remember that, I wore pink. And I told my husband, hey, I'm making you some scrambled eggs on a camp stove. We had no power for days. I mean, we all experienced that ice storm in some way, shape, or form. And the ability of our city to recover from that, we're still working on some of our trees, trying to get our trees to recover. Some of them still look kind of poor, but I don't think anybody will forget about that ice storm anytime soon. If you've never been without power for about 8 days, you will think a lot, and your value of water and refrigeration and your ability to cook some food. So anyway, our city bounced back, and as I said earlier, neighbors helping neighbors. We went, I know I walked around my neighborhood. I mean, what else were you going to do? You couldn't do anything. You had no power. You had no way to cook anything or watch TV or anything. So we all walked around. We all showed up in our neighborhoods and met in the streets and was like, hey, how are you doing? Do you have heat? Do you have blankets? Do you have food? Are you warm enough? Should you come over? And I saw that all over the city. And I think that says a lot about Oregon City. And I guess I didn't talk in a shorter amount. You see, I can talk a lot about Oregon City. I'll try to shorten it.
I
Sorry.
love it. We'd love to hear about remarkable successes in our community, so
Yes.
it is all good. All right, Dr. Cook, what are the 3 challenges we are facing in 2022?
I'm still got a little PTSD talking about ice storms and really, and prior to that, fire, wildfires. And then I was, there was a whole year where we missed a week of school every quarter, from fires in the fall to ice in the winter, and then that historic heat in the spring that was melting our HVAC systems. It was just, I remember thinking, if we can just get through one quarter without having to close, I'll be really happy. But, our biggest challenge throughout this pandemic and moving forward has been our declining enrollment. You mentioned the loss in the K-12 system. We've been down about 20% during the pandemic. And it was a little surprising because usually during times of like this, our enrollments go up when people are, when other things are going well, people go back to school. But if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Many of our students were parents who were trying to navigate their kids and help them manage school, or they were working and trying to manage all this. So to think about going on and doing virtual education, many of them just said, no, something has to give, and I'm not going to do this. About 72% of our students are part-time, and they gave that up for this time. And now as we move ahead, we think, okay, there's reasons to believe that this enrollment will come back. But there's also reasons to think it might take a while. When there are jobs that are going unfilled that are, $20 an hour or something, it's going to be hard to tell people to come back to school right now. So I think that's going to impact us. The lifting the mask mandates and some of the rest will help as we move forward. But I don't know that we're going to bounce back as quickly as we might have in the past during a typical recession or something like that. So that's something that will impact our finances as well. The other 2 that I would hit on are somewhat related, but it's kind of navigating the world of work and what does it mean now to come to work. We shifted in 10 days entirely online, as many people did, and we're places where we said, oh, we could never do that. We could never do this virtually. We were able to do that in a lot of creative ways. And now we're thinking as we come back, and there are many success stories within that have worked really well. And now as we think about coming back, what does a work week look like? What does a work day look like? Are there some employees that don't need to necessarily be back in an office, and how do we figure all that? And then, to be frank, there are a number that are frankly not wanting to come back or ready to come back. And I don't know when that will change, if ever. And so processing through that will be an interesting one. And then same thing for the types of classes we offer. As I said, we switched over. We were, prior to the pandemic, about 10% of our classes were online. In 10 days, 100% were. And now, with the surveys we get from students, say about a third really like online learning. Works really well for them. Tend to be older adults that are working and they can hop on at night or a weekend and get their classes done. And online learning works really well for them, and they want more. About another third on the other end say, please don't ever make me look at a screen again. I want to be face-to-face. I hate this. It doesn't work for me, and have left. Many of those students have left. And, and so we need face-to-face classes for them as we move forward, more of them. And then there's, that other third-ish in the middle about, want a little bit of everything. So I think our biggest challenge kind of moving ahead is figuring out these different modalities about what is the best way to offer education. And, we have over 90 different certificates and programs. And so each one of those is somewhat different when we think about that. So it's not a one-size-fits-all as we look and see, okay, for this program, they might need to be entirely face-to-face, and others, they might not, they could be entirely online and offering that. But getting that right is, we've gotten much better at it over 2 years, and we still have a lot of work to do, I think, to really figure that out as we go ahead.
Kyle?
All right. Well, I will start with the same subject that President Cook did as well, too. Enrollment is, as I shared earlier, a significant challenge for us, and one that we're concerned with. Obviously, as educators, we want to serve our entire community. That's what we're here for. And during the last 2 years, we have lost in the ballpark of about 700 to 800 students who have left for other educational choices. And that's something that we want to regain those students. We want to see them return. Obviously, we want to make sure that they're getting a good education. And I know in a lot of cases they are, but in some cases they may not be. I know traditionally when we've seen kids leave our system and come back, sometimes they come back with some learning loss that happens with that as well too. And so we want to see those kids return. We want to get back to serving more and more of our community. And that is, as you're aware of as well too, that creates a budget concern for us as well. We are funded through the students that we serve. And so when you see a significant decrease in enrollment as we have, that also does create for us some budgetary challenges moving forward and some decisions to make in terms of considering how do we staff and how do we make sure that we're able to serve kids as they do come back. We would assume that coming back into this fall with where we're seeing the pandemic go and maybe moving into an endemic, that we might see some more students return. Because we know that one of those causes of kids leaving our system did have to do with the pandemic. We know there are other reasons that people left as well too, and those are challenges that we're going to have to face and continue to face because we do want to serve all of the students in Oregon City. We do not want to see those 800 students not return to us at some point in time. So preparing for that, dealing with the budget challenges that come along with that, and then also thinking about as students come back, how do we reintegrate them into the system, re-welcome them into our system and make sure that we're also able to support them wherever they're at in their learning are going to be challenges that we face that all relate to the decline in enrollment that we weren't expecting prior to 2020. Another area for us as well is thinking about staffing. I think as we talk to staff and you see it in the national news, educators are considering their profession. This has become a more challenging profession during the pandemic due to a lot of the division that we not only see here in Oregon City, but that we see throughout our state and throughout our nation. That makes its way into our schools. Our schools are community schools. Some of that political divisiveness that is there and some of the disagreements that currently we as a society are experiencing, our educators are carrying a huge load when it comes to that as well too, not only working with students who have some of those different beliefs and some of those challenges that they're bringing into school with one another, but also just within our entire community and what some people believe are happening within our school system. And so I know for me as a leader in the district, some of the other leaders in the district, our concern is not only just the workload that our staff have experienced over the last 2 years and knowing that there's a level of wear down and in some cases burnout with that. We're concerned with that. We're also concerned with what they're having to shoulder as well with the division within our community. That does show up within our classrooms, and that is a challenge for our educators, and we want to keep our educators. Even prior to the pandemic, educators within their first 5 years, that was a hard profession to keep people within. It's a challenging profession. It's a great profession. The reward of working with students is outstanding, as we know, but that has changed. What society thinks of our schools and how people approach our schools right now is very different than it was 2 years ago. And that has us worried to a certain extent about how do we keep these great people who do great things for our kids and have a great impact long-term on the community. And then third, looking forward, the 2018 bond was a huge shift for us and has made a great change within our system in terms of our facilities, but that's still an area of need. The needs were greater than what we were going to be able to cover with a bond, and I know we're going to need to continue to look at different grants and opportunities and possibly future bonds to address the other areas of need that we have. Our high school, our 2 middle schools are in really good shape, but when you move to our elementary schools and some of our charter high schools and other facilities, we have needs that do cost us in terms of deferred maintenance and things that we have to continue to work forward. And so that is another area as well too that I know in the future we'll want to continue to keep an eye on and continue to improve so that we can best serve our students in our community.
Mayor, this one you could be short on.
Yeah, I can be short on this one. So I will say for our community COVID recovery, we have many businesses who are still trying to recover. They can't find the workforce that they need. We have families that can't find childcare. Businesses that closed or maybe trying to reopen. I do think the reduction of the mask mandates, I'm hoping will help. There are some businesses that are still trying to make their way through the COVID policies and have a functioning business that's bringing in enough revenue to stay sustainable. So we've lost some businesses. So I think, our community as a whole, we still have some ways to go and recover from COVID. The other challenge that I'll mention is, I think, homelessness. Homelessness is the topic that I hear about by far the most. It's also why I partnered with our chief of police, Chief Ban, to work on a homeless strategy for Oregon City. And even though we're going to adopt this strategy, it doesn't mean that the problem or the challenge is any better or any easier. The work is complex. We don't have enough resources, and it is going to require improved government coordination and service delivery like we haven't seen before. It's going to challenge our whole region to try to work together to work on this issue. And I know that it's a concern for Oregon City, and Oregon City is a leader. Believe it or not, I think our community knows that, even though it's something that I hear about. If you drive around Oregon City versus other cities, I think you can tell that we are a leader in this space, and the work that we're doing is making a difference, and our staff and our police department do a wonderful job. But it is going to be one of our primary challenges for this year and going forward.
Okay, Dr. Cook, what project or program are you looking forward to in 2022?
Yeah, one of them kind of ties back to the challenge. Thinking about the future of work and the future of learning is a pretty interesting, not just an intellectual challenge, but a real practical one as we move ahead. So, we are really reimagining and really rethinking how do you offer learning in spaces that accommodate all these different needs, but in different ways. I mean, in some ways, higher education hasn't changed in several hundred years, and the model hasn't really adapted. And if you think about a silver lining from the pandemic, it's caused a lot of us to really think, do you really need to sit in this, does everyone really learn at the same rate? Do you really need to sit in the chair for the same amount of time to learn this? Or can we really modify it in some significant ways? So it's thinking about that is, and as we've been engaging in that work for a while, but now coming out and saying, how do we, I remind our campus a lot, the worst thing we can do is go back to the way we were doing everything before. And really reimagining work and learning moving ahead is probably something I think I'm looking forward to that conversation and looking forward to rolling some things out. It creates interesting opportunities. We've been looking at our buildings and saying we may not need as much space in this building because now we've shifted some of this to online. So what can we use that for, and where can we go with that? Is kind of fun to think about or exciting to think about. We did a new strategic plan that we rolled out this last year, and there's a number of elements in that are really exciting, but I think one of the ones that would matter here is our community connections. We really want to re-engage thoughtfully and intentionally with the community in a number of different ways as we come out of this. So thinking about where we can interact with business, where we can interact with our nonprofit partners, with our public employees and the rest, and seeing where we can work on that is really important to us as we do that. And then you mentioned bond projects. We are finishing up from 2014 a $130 million bond that, again, the citizens of Oregon City and Clackamas County were wonderful enough to support. And the challenge is we've got these wonderful new buildings and facilities that, by and large, people haven't had a chance to really be in and see. And so to be able to open those up and celebrate and have people come in, not just the Wachino Center, but our new science center, our industrial technology center. We've got a beautiful healthcare facility at our Milwaukee campus, and then a number of other things to really celebrate that. We're going to throw a big party. I don't know how else to put it. I keep saying I want food, music, like fire trucks. I want like stuff happening, here on this campus when we're able to bring people in and have them in the spaces, and really seeing all the awesome things that have been happening as we've been kind of shut in the last while. So I'm excited about a lot. kind of coming in.
What about you? What project or program are you looking for?
I don't think it's a project or a program, and it relates to a little bit of what President Cook just talked about as well, too, and it's partnerships. So one of the things that the pandemic took away from our students was the connection with businesses, was the connection with, local governments, the community college, a lot of those opportunities that are really, they really enhance the education of our students when they're involved with, adult professionals, and whether it be projects, or it be campaigns or different things that they're doing, all of those things to a certain extent went away in person. Some of them still happened a little bit virtually, but not with the same impact that it had on our students before. And so as we continue to come out of the pandemic and we're able to rebuild some of those partnerships and re-engage in those and get our students working more in the community again, I think that's what I'm most excited about, because we know that has some of the greatest impact on our kids educationally that any of the things are that we do. And so those opportunities seem to be coming. They've started to happen. And we're just looking to re-engage with community again and get our students working with community again.
Yeah, so we're going to throw a party too. And one of the ones that we're really excited to celebrate is the anniversary of the Archbridge, the 100-year anniversary of the Archbridge. This is a historic monument in Oregon City. Everybody knows about the Archbridge. It's been featured on so many pictures and magazines and all over the place, and we're going to celebrate. And we're partnering with the city of West Linn. Commissioners Denise McGriff and Commissioner Rocky Smith are leading the effort and partnering with West Linn to come up with what does that party look like? And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. I think everybody's excited about it. I'm really also looking forward to having concerts in the parks and our parks and everything back open this summer. I've had multiple people ask me about that. So I think this feeling of normalcy where we're finally getting back to things that we realized how much we treasured them when we weren't having them. And I think those will really be great successes. And clearly I'm on a parks thing because the other one that I'm thinking of at the moment is our Clackco Park. With that project's about to start, where we're master planning that project, or that property and that park, right on the confluence of the Willamette and the Clackco rivers. And I really believe that park can be a gem, like a true gem for this region. It has so much potential. And that's exciting to me, to be able to think about what could this offer for our community and attract visitors and to come and visit Oregon City and see everything that we have to offer and do some shopping and visit our restaurants and stuff downtown. And so, that's an exciting, if you're thinking about planning for the future, to sit around a table and talk about what could that be and do that visioning. It's a fun project. It's fun. It's a fun task to do. It's not nearly, it's one of the highlights of this job, right? So you get to do some visioning for a few moments of the day. So I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to be wild and go out of sync and ask Kyle to do this.
Uh-oh. That wasn't in the script.
Having a strong organization is important to the integrity of our community. What does your organization do to keep our community strong?
Yeah, I think we know the basics of what education provides for our community. We're developing a citizenry. We're workforce development. Those are things that are normal things for us to do. And I think probably, and I'm going to go back to a little bit of the division within our communities. One of the things I think most of us could agree upon is that civil discourse has definitely dropped during this period of time. And the different views and things that people have, we're forgetting how to work with one another and how things are supposed to work in our society. And I think our schools play a huge role in that. A lot of the work that we want to do with our students, that we're trying to do with our students, is around that idea of civil discourse. And how do we, within an inclusive community that has a lot of different viewpoints and a lot of different beliefs, work with one another to make our community a better place. And seeing what we're seeing within that, not just Oregon City community, but all throughout our nation right now, I think public schools are going to play a huge, huge role and have a huge, huge responsibility over the next few years of making sure that the generations that come up do better than we're doing right now in terms of working with one another. And I know as a society we'll start to do better. I know we're making ground in that, but schools play a huge role of bringing a community together and giving their kids the first opportunity for them to learn how to have civil discourse and how to work with people of different views and different backgrounds to be a better full community. And so I think that's a role that's always been important for our public schools, but currently is even more important than it maybe has been over the last several decades.
Absolutely. Dr. Cook?
Okay. Yes, we like to remind people that communities are our middle name, and we take that really seriously and trying to look wherever we can and be good community partners. And so I'll start off with some numbers because I always try to remind people of just some of the economic ways that we contribute. And this is the last time we did this was just right before pre-pandemic. So you think about again this 20% drop and all the rest. So these numbers aren't as high as they were then, but. Just prior to the pandemic, we were bringing in $291.7 million created by CCC to the local economy, which is about 1.3% when you think about Clackamas County. So we're contributing that way. Approximately 800 employees work at the college, so we're a big employer for the community. Really important that way. But that 800 some supports then about 3,700 more jobs in the community as well. So it's economically we're really contributing that way. But I think in many ways, when you think about community and our role in it, we think about not just being the higher education option here in Oregon City and in Clackamas County, but really being the place where people can come and get some of their needs met. So you may have heard about our partnership with Clackamas Volunteers in Medicine. And it's something that really makes a lot of sense to us that we would support and partner with a free health clinic for many of our highest need folks in the community, including many of our students. So we're excited about that, but it's not something that people necessarily thought about the college offering. We are concerned about homelessness and housing, and so we've been having a number of conversations. We have property and saying, can we, offer some sort of housing options that help alleviate some of the need. So not just your typical dorm, but really some sort of workforce or low-income housing that we can be part of at the college. And so these wraparound services or these other opportunities are really important as we look forward. And when I say really being intentional about our role in the community, about how we can partner and move these things forward. You talked a lot about parks. One of the things that was interesting in during the pandemic, or has been interesting, is I run on the college every weekend, and the number of people that have used our campus during the pandemic to walk their dogs or to go out and play or just to be outside. If we could count dogs in our enrollment, we wouldn't have an enrollment crisis at all. I mean, we would be fine. It's a place where people really feel comfortable and use the space, and I'm really proud about that as well. And I think, again, to Kyle's point about civil discourse, we've talked a lot about that, and I see our role moving ahead to really convene opportunities for speakers to come, for people to come and have conversations about what does that really mean in our community? What does it really mean to have civil discourse, to be respectful, to have differences of opinion, but to be able to share and talk about those? We are a natural place to do that, and to, because we have physical spaces to do it, but because that's kind of part of our role as we think about that. So, I think we see that community, our part of the community really threaded through a number of different places and look for other opportunities to do it that we might not be thinking of currently.
Wonderful, thank you. Mayor?
Thanks, and you can sign my dog up at Enrollment because he's there almost every weekend, and I love visiting the Clackamas College. His name is Gibbs.
Happy to do it.
So our city staff, they're amazing. They do the stuff and they keep this city running with things that we take for granted. When I turn on my faucet, water comes out. When I flush my toilet, it works. I have sidewalks to walk on. I don't have streets with tons of potholes. Those are the things that I think maybe a lot of people, we are so focused on how much we do in our daily lives that it's easy to forget how much our city is the backbone, the city services that we provide is the backbone to the city thriving. And so I can't not mention our city programs that are vital to this community that make everybody's lives function. We provide that foundational function to your life. And it's important that we do a good job at our services so that you can thrive, so that your business thrives. I would say that I've mentioned parks a lot. We definitely value and try to provide that safe and healthy space for your family as much as, and to me, that's foundational just as much as the water coming out of my faucet. And like I said, I've already talked about it with COVID. You know, we all loved going outside maybe a little bit more than we had in the past because we've been cooped up in our houses. But to get out and have fresh air, but to be safe. You know, we want our community members to feel like they can have their families here and that this is a safe community to live in. And our police department, to me, they go above and beyond. We have a high level of accountability through the structure and the rank, and we have a good relationship with our police department, and I think our community loves them. I see stuff all the time about recognizing the value of our law enforcement, and in today's climate, you never know. It's kind of a topsy-turvy one, but you know what? Oregon City, we've been blessed, and our city staff has done an excellent job, and so when I think about Oregon City and what we're providing, we want you to work, live, and play. And we want you to do it safely and enjoy and thrive. You know, have a thriving family and something that's successful that you can be happy with at the end of the day when you lay down at night and you put your head on your pillow, that you're like, I'm where I'm supposed to be, I'm in a good community, and I hope you recognize that it's happening because a lot of great staff are putting in a lot of time and effort to make this city function.
Yes, outstanding services. Thank you. All right, the last one here. Dr. Cook, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? And how did that dream impact what you're doing today?
You know, that was the hardest question of all of them to think about. I don't, you know, I almost called my mom, actually, because I was trying to remember. I think the best way to answer that question, because I remember wanting to be an astronaut, and I remember wanting to be an archaeologist. And I think the best way I can answer this is I was really a bookish kid. I had my head in a book constantly. I remember hunting with my dad when I was 13, and we're sitting out in the woods, and it's cold and quiet, and I'm sitting there with a book, reading, and he's watching for deer, and he looks at me and goes, you don't have to come to these anymore if you don't want to do this. He goes, because I would just bring my books. And so I think, I think when I think about what I want to be as a kid, I just have always really loved learning. And so when people ask me what I love about my job, I get to learn every day, and I get these happy opportunities where I get to stumble on a lecture or, sit in on something else. And so I think that's probably my best answer, because I think there were a lot of instances I came across as a kid that were interesting to me, but just the ability to be a lifelong learner and always do that is probably the best answer I can have. So
That is awesome. Thank you. Kyle?
It was a really hard one. And I'm not so sure I know what I wanted to do as a kid. I think maybe I was trying to go on that path of not having to. It didn't work out for me. I know early on, though, later on in my youth, I wanted to be a coach, and I ended up being a high school and college basketball coach at one point in time. And I know that probably the love of that continues through the work that I attempt to do now is really the development of individuals. Whether it be on a team or whether it be within our school system or it be employees, is watching people grow and watching people, reach their aspirations and meet their goals. And so I think for me, that's part of what drives me to do the work I do, and probably comes a little bit out of at least that early job attempt. And maybe that early job attempt too was more towards the youthful stuff of not working as well too, because basketball coaching is definitely, I think, more fun than work most of the time. So
I love it.
Oh, goodness. So I think a lot of girls start on the same track that I did. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I loved dogs. I loved animals. Any animal, a veterinarian would be like, that's what I should be. I bailed on that, though, not too much longer after that, and realized that I was a true nerd and a science geek. And so then I wanted to be a meteorologist. And so I went to the only university in Florida at that time that had a meteorology program. And so I was, truly a science geek. But that was a really hard program. And I left that, but I stayed in the science realm. And so I stayed in the IT and geographic and doing data analysis. So that's where I started. But now I still do that, but I work for the state of Oregon, and I studied public administration for my master's. And so I feel like that's one arm, but at the same time, it has nothing to do with the government work that I do today in my day job, and then as a volunteer to be the mayor of doing, improving government operations and policy. I don't think I would have ever thought of that when I was back in college. There was probably an inkling when I tried to sell like yarn pom-poms in the second grade that I should have my own business. I did consider that for a while. My parents probably should have shepherded me a little bit in that direction. I did get called to the principal's office for getting people's kids lunch money when they bought my pom-poms and then they didn't have lunch money. And so I was trying to start a business in the second grade. So maybe I should have gone in that direction, but anyway, that's where I landed. I don't know that it has anything to do with what I do right now. I still do some tech side of the stuff, but yeah.
Well, I think you all chose great direction. I myself want to be a singer, dancer, be grateful that dream died. Again, thank you all for participating in the 2022 State of the Community. The presentation can be seen on Oregon City's YouTube and the Chamber's Facebook page. We appreciate your interest and your investment in our wonderful community. And in addition, there are some coupons on your chair. We would like you to dine, drink, and shop local. Thank you.